What are inversions and what can you do with them? Inversions are different versions of the same chord. A simple chord consists of 3 notes. This is called a triad. There are 3 major triad inversion shapes. If we take the C major triad as an example, this chord is made up of the notes C, E, and G. When you play this chord with C as your lowest note, followed by an E as your second highest note, followed by a G as your highest note, you have what's called a root position chord. An inversion simply means that the notes of this chord are in a slightly different order. For first inversion, your lowest note would be an E, followed by a G as your second highest note, followed by a C as your highest note. For second inversion, your lowest note would be a G, followed by a C as your second highest note, followed by an E as your highest note. Here are all the occurrences of the C triad up to the 12th fret. Once you memorize these 3 shapes, you can play them for any chord. To see how inversions can be applied, let's learn the other 2 major chords in the key of C, F and G major. For the root position of F, your lowest note would be an F, followed by an A as your second highest note, followed by a C as your highest note. For first inversion, your lowest note would be an A, followed by a C as your second highest note, followed by an F as your highest note. For second inversion, your lowest note would be a C, followed by an F as your second highest note, then followed by an A as your highest note. Here are all the occurrences of the F triad up to the 13th fret. For the root position of G, your lowest note would be a G, followed by a B as your second highest note, followed by a D as your highest note. For first inversion, your lowest note would be a B, followed by a D as your second highest note, followed by a G as your highest note. For second inversion, your lowest note would be a D, followed by G as your second highest note, followed by B as your highest note. Here are all the occurrences of the G triad up to the 15th fret. Okay, so let's create a simple chord progression with these 3 chords and put the inversions to use. Our example will be C, F, G, C. We'll play 1 chord per bar for a total of a 4-bar chord progression. Here is the chord progression played with open chords. Now, let's try the same progression with the inversions. We will begin by playing the root position of the C chord. An important aspect of inversions is that they give you the ability to keep your chord shapes close together on the neck of the guitar. For the F chord, we can choose the second inversion and play it like this. Then, for the G chord, we can use the first inversion like this. All 3 chord shapes are very close together. The way the notes move from chord to chord is very smooth and melodic. Let's hear the entire progression. Now let's start from the first inversion of C and move to the root position of F, then to the second inversion of G. Let's hear the entire chord progression. Finally, let's start from the second inversion of C, then move to the first inversion of F, then to the root position of G. Here's the whole progression. Now that we know these three ways to play the chord progression, we can combine them all. There are other combinations as well, so there are a lot of possibilities. Basically, inversions give you options when you are playing chords. You can use them with open chords or bar chords, or along with open chords or bar chords. You can also use them in solos. There are many creative possibilities. In part 2, we will add minor inversions on the E, B, and G strings.